Okay, we've all been there, right? You're on that dream team project where everything just clicks. The ideas are flowing, everyone's in sync. It's awesome. And then we've all been in the other kind of group, the one that feels like you're trying to build a rocket ship with a team that's never even seen a hammer. It's frustrating, it's confusing, and sometimes it is just a total mess.
So what is the secret? What makes one team soar and another one crash and burn? Is it just luck? Did you get the right people in the room? Or is there something more to it? A predictable science behind it all? Well, the thing is, there is. And once you understand it, it can completely change how you work with other people.
So, here's our game plan for this explainer. First up, we're going to get on the same page about what a group even is. Then, we'll dive into the hidden rules that are secretly running the show. After that, we'll look at the common traps that make good groups go bad. And finally, we'll open up the manager's playbook to see how to fix these issues and build a team that really, truly works. Okay, so before we can start cracking any codes, we have to understand the language. So let's start with the absolute basic building block. What exactly is a group? You might actually be surprised by the official definition. The key words here are interacting and interdependent. Just think about it for a second. A bunch of people waiting for a bus. They're not really a group. They're just individuals in the same place. They don't depend on each other. But a soccer team? Now that's a group. They're constantly interacting, and what one player does directly affects everyone else. That interdependence, all focused on a common goal, that's what we're talking about. Now this is where it gets really interesting. The moment a group forms, it's not just a blank slate. It's immediately run by a set of invisible forces, these unspoken properties that shape every single conversation and decision. You can think of these as the group's DNA. Roles are what's expected of you based on your position. Norms are those unwritten rules about what's cool and what's not. And status is, the pecking order. If you don't understand these forces, you're basically flying blind. And check this out. This chart shows a universal truth about teamwork that most of us get totally wrong. We think progress should be this steady uphill climb, but in reality, it's more like nothing, then panic, and then a huge burst of action right at the end. That midpoint panic, it's not a sign your team is failing. It's actually the predictable kick in the pants that gets the team into high gear. As a leader, you should see it coming and even use it. Let's really zero in on norms, because they have so much power. These are the shared rules that tell you everything. Is it okay to be 5 minutes late to the meeting? Do we interrupt each other or wait our turn? How hard are we really expected to work? These rules are almost never written down, but trust me, everyone feels them. And the pressure to follow these norms is, it's huge. The classic Asch conformity studies found that people will knowingly give a wrong answer just to avoid being the odd one out. So what does that tell us? It tells us that this pressure to fit in can be a massive roadblock to making smart decisions.
Now that pressure to conform is just one of the ways a really promising group can go completely off the rails. So let's look at some of the most common teamwork traps and figure out how they trip us up.
Come on, we all know this feeling, right? You're putting in the hours, you're grinding away, and then you look over and see a teammate who is, they're just coasting. There's actually a scientific name for this.
It's called social loafing, and it's a real documented human tendency. When the responsibility gets spread out across a whole group, some people just instinctively pull back on their effort. It's not always on purpose, it's just a weird quirk of group dynamics. But man, it can totally sink a project.
But here's the good news. You don't have to just put up with social loafing. You can fight back. And while all these steps are helpful, pay special attention to peer evaluations and individual rewards. Why? Because they completely destroy the one thing social loafing needs to survive: anonymity. When people know their specific work is being seen and valued, that instinct to coast just disappears.
Sometimes, though, bad group behavior goes way beyond just slacking off. It can become actively harmful. We call this deviant workplace behavior, and it's basically any voluntary action that breaks important rules and threatens the team or even the whole organization.
And this isn't just one thing either. It falls into a few different categories. You've got production deviance, like working slowly on purpose, which hurts efficiency. Property deviance is a direct attack, like theft. Political deviance, like spreading rumors, just poisons the whole culture. And personal aggression, that creates a toxic and unsafe environment for everyone. Knowing these categories helps leaders spot the specific problem and deal with it.
And that brings us to maybe the most dangerous trap of them all: groupthink. This is what happens when the team's desire for everyone to get along completely overrides any realistic debate. The pressure to just agree becomes so intense that nobody dares to say, hey, wait a minute, is this a good idea? This leads to absolutely disastrous decisions. It's been blamed for everything from the Challenger space shuttle disaster to the Bay of Pigs invasion. Cases where really smart people all agreed on a terrible plan because nobody wanted to rock the boat.
Now, it's really important not to confuse groupthink with its weird cousin, group shift. In groupthink, everybody sort of drifts to the same, often bland idea to keep the peace. But in group shift, the group discussion actually pushes people to take more extreme positions than they had when they started. The final decision ends up being way riskier or way more cautious than any one person would have picked on their own. Both are bad, but they work in totally opposite ways.
Okay, so that was the diagnosis of how good teams can get sick. It can feel a little bleak, but here's the powerful part. Because all these dynamics are predictable, they are also preventable. So now, let's open up that manager's playbook and look at the cure.
If you want to beat groupthink, you have to deliberately introduce a little bit of healthy friction. Keep your group small. Under 10 people is ideal. A leader should never ever state their opinion first. Instead, they need to actively pull input from every single person. And formally appointing a devil's advocate, literally making it someone's job to challenge everything, is an absolutely brilliant way to force critical thinking.
And what about all that other deviant behavior? Well, the strategy here is about creating an environment where it just can't grow. Think of it like this. Positive norms are like a strong immune system. Keeping an eye on status gaps prevents resentment from building up. Smaller groups get rid of the shadows where bad behavior likes to hide. And clear roles take away the confusion that can lead to conflict. It's all about proactive prevention, not just reactive punishment.
Whew! Okay, we have covered a ton of ground, from the absolute basics of what a group is to all the complex ways they can fall apart, and how to put them back together. So let's boil all this down to the essentials.
Here's what I really want you to walk away with. First, group behavior isn't some random magic. It follows predictable patterns, and that means you can manage it. Second, those invisible things like norms and status, they are everything. They create very real, very visible results. And finally, you don't need some massive, complicated plan. Small, simple changes can stop the biggest problems before they even get started.
The truth is, these group dynamics are playing out all around us, every single day, in every meeting, on every team. They can be a source of constant frustration, or they can be your biggest advantage. So the real question is, now that you've seen the code behind it all, what's the one thing you're going to do differently to change the game in your next team project?